Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
We'll see you next week, but until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Sterling Holmes is up, and I can see things and I can hear things. Sterling says he's frozen. Hi, welcome to Arrowhead Addicts Tuesdays with Sterling. I'm Joshua Brisco, typically the guest while Sterling introduces things. The biggest show in town, the only show in town, and I'm not hearing Sterling's mic because I think Sterling is muted. Sterling, unmute the mic, big fella. Stu, you got to unmute that microphone right there. Oh, and Sterling's gone. Fantastic. Well, look, the Chiefs are 4-0. What could you possibly complain about? We're the biggest show in town, airing at approximately 3 o'clock today. What else could you say? Stu, do I got you?
You got me now. Yeah,
I
was completely frozen.
Tuesday is back. We're back with Tuesdays. Stu, welcome to my show.
38. Yeah, welcome. This is the Tuesday show with Brisco. Don't know what happened there. It just froze on the red screen after the introduction. So I'm just sitting there waiting to go on. I'm like, okay, neat.
We could all see you.
You could see me
going. Yeah, all of that.
So I look like yeah. Good.
We were worried about my setup right before the show started. Look at us now.
Yeah, I'm the one that's the dumbass. Nice. Nails.
That's not your fault necessarily. Some people are born dumbasses, and you're one of those people.
Oh, you're so sweet. By the way, 1738, the Royals back in the playoffs, first time in a decade. So if you think I will not have that bad boy on during this podcast, you are out of your gourd. Let's go, Casey. I'm a big Casey guy through and through, but a lot to get into today. Just a absurd amount of things to get into. Do we want to start with the fun, with the reality? Do we want to start with the pipe dreams that we basically all know aren't going to happen, but we're going to try and talk ourselves into them happening? Where do you want to start here, Brisco?
The most I can offer in terms of the positivity of all of this is that I can provide a little bit of context around the fact that we don't know what the bleep is going on inside of Rashee Rice's knee right now. It probably isn't a torn ACL. It could be a lot of other things. We have very limited information at this point, but that feels pretty on brand. I mean, it's certainly the news. It's not the most fun thing. 4-0 is a lot more fun, but I think it's reasonable to talk about Rashee Rice first.
Yeah, so with Rashee Rice, it's possible it's not his ACL, but the most likely scenario is it's still a season-ending injury. Take that as you will. Could be non-ACL related. Still could be out for the entirety of the NFL season. Really does sound like the Chiefs are going to have to try and figure out a way to go this year without Hollywood and without Rashee, at least for the regular season. I know there's been a lot of possibilities getting thrown around there. You know, Amari Cooper's been a name, and financially it does make sense because the Chiefs only have around $4.9 million in salary cap to work with as it currently sits. The Chiefs obviously have 3 open spots right now on the 53-man roster. They're saving a little bit of money right now, a little nickel and diming right now from the Hunts in regards to that. But Amari Cooper's contract is set up as such that the Chiefs actually could go out and get him. Now, what would it cost to acquire him remains to be seen. I know there was that one posted that was going around circulating on the X that was basically, for all intents and purposes, the Tennessee 3rd rounder, a 5th round and 7th round swap. The Chiefs getting the 7th rounder, they get Amari Cooper, and then the Browns get a 3rd rounder from Tennessee, which equates more or less to a 2nd rounder, as well as the Chiefs' 5th. I think there's been a lack of nuance on both sides. I think some people go, you're going for a 3-peat, go all in, whatever it takes, go get that guy. And then I think some people need to realize that, hey, that's more or less a second rounder, which was a Nick Bolton, a Kareem Humphrey, a Rashee Rice. It was also a Sky Moore and a Breland Speaks. So you can play both sides of the coin here. But I try and bring some nuance here. I would be a fan of that personally because, again, I also think that Amari Cooper is a guy the Chiefs could potentially re-sign after the season is over based on the fact that he is 30 years old. I don't think he's going to cost $23 million a season, and Hollywood Brown is off the books, and no one knows what's going to happen in that situation. That's where I'm at right now. I don't know your thoughts here. I don't think it actually happens. I think the most likely scenario is MVS, Demarcus Robinson, come on down, you're a Chief, or Justin Ross / McCole Hardman gets a larger role. Maybe it's Nico Remigio. But in your mind, Brisco, what do you make of that trade scenario?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right on something that Andy Reid said even on Monday. He was asked very directly about it, and so I'm not saying this is Andy Reid like giving the game away. I think we have the same Royals jersey, by the way, Sterling. I'll pull that out. You see the sleeve in the corner there. I'll pull that out. I think we may be matching right now. Not matching right now, but we could be later. I think Amari Cooper makes the most sense out of the names that have been thrown around at this point. But I don't think I would be willing to give up that Titans third-round pick plus the rest of the swaps that you mentioned there. And that's so specific, and it's a suggested trade that I'm not even going to necessarily do all the math and all of that. But it does put the Chiefs in an interesting spot where this isn't just you're a good team with Patrick Mahomes, try to win every year. This is the campaign for the three-peat, to do something that's never been done in the NFL before. And it's probably your second to last year with Travis Kelce. Wasting that because your number one or number two receivers both got hurt, and then you said, oh, well, Sky Moore can step up. That would be a poor way to spend this year of Patrick Mahomes' prime. One more year with Travis Kelce. And I think he probably plays next year as well, but we're looking towards the end there. And what looks like an elite defense through 4 weeks. So I do think that there's a better chance of them. I think there's a better chance of them making a move now than there would be in almost any other circumstance. It's both of your top two receivers. It's probably season long or roughly season long for both of them. And you'll see where if Hollywood can come back before the playoffs, and then the timing on the Rice thing is becoming maybe slightly optimistic in terms of maybe he ends up on a similar timeline to Hollywood at this point, which would be wild, but also kind of less than ideal, I think you could say. So I do think there's a world in which the Chiefs make a move. I think it's more likely that it is the guys in house and then maybe a less exciting move than you were previously hoping for. But as Andy said on Monday, it's easier to get those guys back in if they're familiar with the offense. Juju Smith-Schuster was a late add, not mid-season, but he was a late add. You've seen him now. I think he's going to be wide receiver 3 for the foreseeable future. Kareem Hunt is a mid-season add who I think is running back 1 for the foreseeable future. Those are guys with some familiarity with the offense and the language and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. So I think that those connections do make you think. I don't know if MVS is playing again or if he was still. I didn't see him out there. I don't think on Monday night or Sunday night. When do the Bills play? It doesn't matter. It's all a sports gruel at this point. I'm just constantly chugging NFL games. I think a familiar face is more likely than a big swing. I do think Cooper, as a veteran who should be able to step in and process things pretty quickly, that is familiar with different offenses, I think there's something there. It becomes a lot harder for me to get to any of the more exciting names, even though I think both sides would benefit from a Devontae Adams trade. I'm certainly not telling you that it's likely.
Yeah. Super chat from Raymond. Raymond, appreciate you. Says, get Cooper, no weak sauce like D-Rob. This is a historic one-time chance to three-peat. I'm with you. I just don't know if the Chiefs will view it that way in regards to, again, second-round draft picks. Again, basically what Tennessee's is so valuable when you have done such a great job at drafting like Brett Veach, when you do have a lot of guys on non-rookie contracts, when you do want to try and bring back Nick Bolton. What I would do and what I think the Chiefs will do might be two entirely different things.
Yeah. I do think there's, to Raymond's point, I do think there's something to that. I think if there is a time that Clark Hunt might go ahead and crack open the checkbook, that Brett Veach might make a trade that hurts a little bit, to take a little baseball parlance, I think this would be the time. I'm still not doubling down on a massive swing. I think it's probably Cooper, something less exciting, or maybe they get a glimmer of good news with Rashee Rice and they say, hey, we're going to put Xavier Worthy on that accelerated program. We're going to let Justin Watson do his cardio out there every Sunday or whatever they end up playing on. Yeah. I think the onboarding process for anyone else would put them on a similar timeline to Hollywood before they could end up being wide receiver 1 type players at this point. It's really tough.
So as we look ahead to Monday night's game, I don't want to look ahead of the game specifically outside of what we think the game plan is going to look like, as far as what the rotation might look like. I'm actually going to head to that game. It's post-wedding, so Monday night, Saints.
Wow, really?
I'm going. Oh, yeah.
You're getting married on Saturday, watching Red Zone on Sunday, and going to Chiefs Saints on Monday?
I love my fiance/future wife. Yeah, we're going together. It's going to be electric.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Tell everybody throughout the tailgating that you guys, like, you should get a custom jersey that says "just married" on the back, and just let people throw barbecue at you guys instead of rice. Just burnt ends, just raining down over you both.
Should I get streamers with like empty beer cans just tailing off the back of my jersey?
They're full at the beginning. And then as you go throughout the tailgating process, you empty them yourself, and then you just throw them back there and let them clank along behind you.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great idea. That's how they know that we're having fun. But just in regards to this upcoming week, I do think it's going to be Juju Smith-Schuster probably getting the first crack. He does look to me more or less like the Juju we saw in New England, less so than the one we saw a couple years ago in KC. But he fits that power slot role.
That's the interesting thing, right? Rashee Rice was an upgrade on 2022 Juju, right? A guy that ended up just under 1,000 yards on the year. Rashee Rice ended up being an upgraded version of that after Juju went and got paid, and then obviously had his health issues in New England. Hold on, everybody. I've got a Devontae Adams tweet that just popped up here. He prefers to be traded, according to Ian Rappaport. So keep an eye on that. Devontae Adams officially asking out of Las Vegas.
That's our newsbreaker. That's our breaking news sounder. Okay.
I think that appropriately so for this show too. I think there's a little something to Juju just kind of going back into that role and being a physically diminished version of what he was in 2022. But he didn't forget how to read a defense or find a soft spot in the zone or get to where Patrick Mahomes wants him to be. I have a little bit of optimism I'm willing to extend to the Juju plan. More than you, apparently.
Rashee Rice was blossoming into an Amon-Ra St. Brown mini clone. I don't want to say he's going to go for 1,500 yards in a season, but like he was on the same trajectory, if you actually look at it, that Amon-Ra St. Brown basically was on. And they play a very similar style. And if you know my thoughts on Amon-Ra St. Brown, then you obviously understand why I'm so bummed about this.
Yeah.
What sucks is if it is a season-long injury, okay? I still believe that's more or less what we're looking at here. That doesn't even count the suspension that will be levied against him.
Yep.
Right? We might not see him for a long time. So the Chiefs might not just need a this year situation. Obviously, that's the most important. That's the most pressing. They might need something for another first half of next year as well. So I'm just intrigued to see how the Chiefs value and view the immediate need versus also the immediate need this year, plus coupled with next season into the future. That's why I think that Tennessee pick might become more valuable for Brett Veach to keep than to trade for, again, a guy like Amari Cooper. Again, this is all speculation at this point. Either way, the Chiefs are 4-0. I don't think the offense is going to be necessarily doomed either way. I trust Mahomes, even with the poor play I think he's really gone through this season. I believe the offensive line has actually looked pretty darn good for the most part. Juwan Taylor, when he's not getting penalties, looks like a really good right tackle. I think he actually has played good football outside the penalties, which is almost an oxymoron. And then Wanya Morris, I think, has actually looked really good. You know my thoughts on PFF. When it helps my cause, I'll use it. When it hurts my cause, I think it's ridiculous. So I'm going to say it's ridiculous right now because I think Wanya Morris has actually played some pretty good left tackle for Kansas City right right now. I think almost on par, if not slightly better than Donovan Smith, and yet PFF does not agree with me. I don't think he's been the issue of why Mahomes has bailed out of pockets early, because quite frankly, I've been very impressed with Morris.
Yeah, I think there's probably room for everybody to catch a little bit of blame here. That's usually the case in the NFL anyway, I guess. But like Mitch Schwartz had a whole thread today of him kind of going through the places where he thought it was more on the pressure and what the offensive line was allowing for Mahomes, more than Mahomes bailing on empty pockets. I think we have seen Mahomes still. I'm on some level partially disagreeing with Mitch Schwartz here, I suppose. I think we have seen Mahomes get some happy feet. We have seen him drop his eyes, even when the pressure does come. This is part of it too. Even when the pressure's there and it's not Mahomes' fault, being able to maneuver around the pressure and keep your eyes downfield and find your target, that's one of the things that he is elite at that he's not elite at right now, that he has not been elite at this year. And that is an elite quarterback level trait to be able to do that. So I think you can pass some of the blame around there a little bit. PFF also in week 4 ended up, I think Creed was still among the higher graded players, but both guards took pretty big nosedives. And PFF typically loves Trey Smith and Joe Thuney. They were among the highest graded players throughout the first 3 weeks of the season. Week 2, I think, against the Bengals, maybe they were like 1, 2, and 4 or something. They almost swept the podium for the top PFF grades of the week. So I do think you can find a logical interpretation to say that you should be encouraged by Wanya Morris, that Juwan Taylor has mostly been dinged by the grading and penalties, and that the interior outside of Creed has maybe taken a little step back. I also think that's pretty easy to explain. Joe Thuney is in now 4 games in playing with a serious pec injury that took his entire offseason from him. And Trey Smith, I'm pausing because you guys have been doing all these TikToks and Instagram reels, and I enjoy them, but I don't want this to turn into one. Trey Smith, as a pass protector, at times, his impact can be overstated by some big fans of Trey Smith, the run game leader, and the mauler, and the grinder, the pancaker, things that Trey Smith is. He's not an elite pass protector. And right now, or at least in week 4, Joe Thuney didn't look like one either. So I think you're seeing a little bit of the weaknesses of each other impacting the other side, if that makes sense. When Mahomes drops his eyes, it makes the pass rush look better, or makes his pass protection look worse. When the pass protection is making Mahomes unstable and maybe losing a little bit of trust in that group, then Mahomes gets a little antsier. It's cyclical that way to me, in a way that's kind of a bummer.
Welcome to TikTok, bro.
What is that?
I want to talk about, because I think Angry Drunken German brought up a really good point here. We're winning it all either way, but it sure would be nice for it not to come down to the last drive every week. Yeah, maybe you get a Deontay Johnson. Maybe you get a Amari Cooper. That will help out. I think even without Rashee Rice, and however long him and Hollywood and Pacheco are out, I still think the Chiefs are going to be a team that probably the best in the AFC. They're going to win the AFC West. They're probably still going to go 12-5, probably at a minimum. And it's going to be ugly. It might not be the prettiest thing offensively, but why they will still win? 1, you have Mahomes. 2, you have a great OC, a great play caller, a great offensive mind in Andy Reid, and the defense. That's what I want to talk about right now. That is what has me so enthused for the entirety of the season. It's the defense. Jalen Watson deserves so much damn credit. I've been trying to pound the table for Jalen Watson. He's a legit CB2. PFF, going to help my cause here, has him ranked the 32nd best corner in the NFL. That's CB1. That'd be the very back end of CB1 if you do it that way.
Highest grade of any Chief last week, Jalen Watson.
Trent McDuffie's been 15th overall, and Jalen Watson's been 32nd. Jalen Watson has been nails. He's been why I think the Chiefs have been so good against the run, because they're allowing him to go one-on-one with guys, and he's shutting him down. Basically, Spagnuolo is saying, hey, you want to run the football? We're going to almost stack the box, because we trust Jalen Watson and Trent McDuffie on the outside. So I've just been impressed with Watson because of all the concern. Who's going to step up? A guy who had a torn labrum last year, played through it, looked atrocious in training camp and preseason football.
The last preseason game was ugly.
Now he looks like a legit CB2. Watson, if I had a beer, I would crack it just for you.
It allows the Chiefs to do some similar things they were doing last year. He's not been L'Jarius Sneed or, 2023 L'Jarius Sneed, because that guy was an absolute Terminator, but he's been really, really, really good and completely reliable in like a set it and forget it kind of way that doesn't have you constantly shuffling that around. Najee Johnson seems like cornerback 3 right now, and then Joshua Williams will see the field if somebody ahead of him gets hurt. That group with Watson playing like a legit, I'll say, top level CB2, just for the sake of the wiggle room and everything. And that's what the Chiefs are asking him to be, is to be a top level CB2. Getting that out of Jalen Watson is absolutely enormous. Nothing in the defense works without Chris Jones, and Jones and McDuffie as 2 first team all-pro performers to this point, both of them. Those guys at the center of this defense make everything else possible. Jalen Watson and Tershawn Wharton might be the 2 guys next up at the same, not intentionally, but at the same position groups in terms of the second fiddles to superstars at defensive tackle and cornerback. Those guys are absolutely massive. I saw the comment about still needing some more pass rush. George Karlaftis has not been an individual winner at the rate you'd like him to be right now. Obviously, Mike Dana didn't play last week. You saw a lot of FAU. He was fine. Malik Herring was fine. I think Herring also got a great PFF grade for whatever that's worth. This group needs Charles Omenihu back. That's the thing where you talk about midseason additions. It's very hard to make that happen at wide receiver. Charles Omenihu, for the second year in a row, will be joining the Chiefs midseason at some point, and it'll be off rehab as opposed to off suspension. So his health and his fresh legs, to put that in air quotes, will probably be a little bit less advantageous than it was last year when he was just getting ready to play football, just sitting out, as opposed to rehabbing one of those legs throughout this offseason and everything. That, to me, the fact that Omenihu isn't back yet and this defense is performing at an elite level should be really, really exciting. Because you're right, Drew Tranquil has underperformed. I would argue that on some level, Karlaftis and Dana have underperformed, although not disastrously. They just haven't impressed necessarily. Certainly haven't overperformed. Nick Bolton has been up and down. Leo Chanel is an animal, but gets used very specifically, which is extremely useful. But there are 2 superstars on this defense right now, and then the rest of the guys in the role player role largely hitting those marks. Role player is even understating it. Starter roles for guys like Watson and effectively Wharton. With Spags pulling all the levers, this unit's totally legit. Also, I should say, after years of complaining about the Chiefs not stopping the run, which was never the point anyway, because that's how the NFL works right now. This NFL season, teams are trying to run the ball a little more and trying to swing that pendulum a little bit, and no one has run on the Chiefs so far. That's incredible.
Yeah. I actually talk more.
And they hate Cam Thomas, apparently. I just saw Angry Drunken German. So with FAU floundering, we should be seeing what Cam Thomas has to bring. FAU didn't flounder in week 4, even as not necessarily an FAU believer. Cam Thomas was active. He had a role for him. I believe he played 3 defensive snaps. I do not know what to tell you.
I actually thought FAU has looked okay. I don't like the entirety of the season. I think he's looked okay. He's looked like a 5th rounder in his second year should look.
Yeah,
he's looked like Mike Dana looked almost. Different styles and all that stuff, but as far as production wise, but at least that's better than what we saw last year. So again, it is at least a positive. I'm not trying to be negative because I have at least been, I don't want to say impressed. I've been slightly enthused about what he's looked like so far because it has looked better than last year. It's at least a step in the positive direction. I do want to also point out, before we talk about Chris Jones, football's back, baby. Here to stay until February. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by making picks on Underdog. You can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on your favorite player's stats. I actually did it for baseball today for the Royals game, the Royals and Orioles. Did a little Underdog, little pick'em, right? Little pick'em. But you can do it in the NFL as well. With my fantasy football team being atrocious, they also do these weekly and almost daily fantasy football drafts you can do with random people. I actually do better against random people than against my friends, apparently. So it's really fun. I highly recommend Underdog. It's a lot of fun. It's simple to use. You can use it on the mobile app or underdogfantasy.com. And if you sign up with promo code Arrowhead Addict, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em. plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Arrowhead Addict to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. You must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona. Present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783 or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Great work, Stu.
All right, Chris Jones time.
Yeah.
CJ95 time. Is he going to win Defensive Player of the Year? And can he be a top 3 guy, even if he only ends up with, let's just say, 11 or 12 sacks? Because you answer first before I give my thoughts. The 2 parts. Can Chris Jones win DPOY this year? And 2, can he do it if he only gets 11 or 12 sacks?
This isn't because I think this is correct. This is because I think it's how it will go. Yes, if the Chiefs' offense doesn't get better. If the Chiefs continue to win football games, potentially become the 1 seed in the AFC, and as the year goes on, and a lot of analysts and analytics people and film people and everyone across the spectrum has recognized Chris Jones's excellence more and more after Aaron Donald retired, understandably. Chris Jones has been an incredible football player for a very long time, but I'm not sure he's ever been the best defensive tackle in football because Aaron Donald is probably, he is, I think, the best defensive tackle of all time. Chris Jones might be gunning for 2 on that list too, but he was behind Aaron Donald for a lot. With Jones now being the star of the Chiefs defense, and potentially having the Chiefs defense kind of be the star of the organization. Obviously, Kelsey and Mahomes are the faces, but in terms of why are the Chiefs the 1 seed? Why are they 15-2? Well, because they haven't given up 20 points in a game since week whatever. So I think there's a path for that. I think it's easier for guys with counting stats. It's easier if you have a 20 sack guy, it becomes a lot easier to point to them and say, he's the one I'm going to go ahead and vote for here. If it's a dominant year from a Myles Garrett or fill in any of your elite edge rushers. But I do feel like there's a little bit of momentum here for Jones to finally get his due. And I'm going to say this without meaning for it to sound like it would be lessening the award, because it wouldn't be at all, but almost in a lifetime achievement kind of way. This stuff happens all the time with NFL awards, where you can say, oh, you had an elite season, which Chris Jones is pacing for right now, and you've never won it. Yeah, I'll vote for you over Myles Garrett this time. Or Micah Parsons is going to miss some time, so he's probably going to be out of that conversation. But that, to me, I think, builds the narrative that Jones will need to win the award. It's not a narrative award, but it is. It shouldn't be, but that human beings vote on it. And I think that's what it comes down to for me.
And sometimes it's even voter fatigue. We've seen it with Mahomes. You see it in the NBA. I mean, you saw it with LeBron, with Kobe, with LeBron James. I mean, you'll see it throughout. You always want the next. It's always how it works. It's why a lot of people don't always pick the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl every single year, because everyone wants to be the smartest guy in the room. They want to say Ravens, Bills, anyone else, right? But I think Chris Jones has a legitimate chance, and I think part of it is, that's why I want to say 11 or 12 sacks. He's going to get double-teamed almost every single play. We know that. He might only get 11 or 12 sacks. Doesn't mean though that's all the plays he affects. And I think that's where the NFL has done a good job, and voters specifically, as far as voting on impact, voting on what they mean on a team basis and a play-by-play basis. You're starting to see the pass rush win rate actually get thrown around. You're starting to get numbers of pressure and how quick these guys are getting pressure on the quarterback. Quite frankly, TJ Watt had he was a sack leader last year, and Myles Garrett won. Right? So to me, I think this is almost a step in the right direction of, I think Chris Jones could win DPOY even with only 12 or so sacks. You got to get double digits. That much is I think, a given. He's sitting here at 3 right now, getting back-to-back sacks, or 2 sacks, I should say. Last game is huge, but he's really the only guy on the defensive line who's generating pressure.
That's right.
Is that a good way of putting it? Generating pressure, I think
that's great.
Karl Loftus can clean up, right?
Yes.
Mike Dana can clean up. I think Karl Loftus can do more than just clean up, but as far as winning quickly, that's not what Karl Loftus' strength is. A minute who can, at least the last time we saw him, he could. I will also point out it's very good that Turk Wharton's looking good alongside Chris Jones, because I don't think a lot of national folks are going to sit here and say, yeah, look how great Turk Wharton was. We will know in Kansas City, but a lot of people will say, look how good Chris Jones was playing with alongside a guy named Tershawn Wharton.
Right.
It almost helps Chris Jones' cause here.
I think that's right, and that's why I think obviously it certainly helps to be on a winning team. It's not exclusive for defensive players in particular, but winning team, star of the defensive line by a mile, star of the defense as McDuffie's star will continue to rise throughout his career. A later career award for Jones, a guy who has not yet gotten that accolade, while most people who know ball understand that Chris Jones does deserve that type of accolade. He just hasn't gotten to it yet. I agree. Pass rush, in terms of he's generating the pressure on this team more than anybody else. But you mentioned the double teams, and that's something else that I think narratively can help him here, where you can say he's getting double teamed and he's winning like this. Yeah, TJ Watt, the Bosas, Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, they can get double teamed, certainly. They also take the attention of offensive game plans constantly. But it's harder to double team off the edge than it is right up the middle where Chris Jones spends most of his time. It's relatively easy to say, you two handle 95. Everybody else, figure it out. That to me does carry enough value that I think a good DPOY campaign in a couple of months could actually get Chris Jones an award that he has certainly been close to deserving before. Right now, I think he might be, I don't know where the odds are or anything, but he would be the deserving leader in the clubhouse right now for me.
I think Aiden Hutchinson is probably there with his 6.5 sacks because of the 4.5 sack game. And McKinney, I believe, for Green Bay has 4 interceptions. So that's 4 interceptions.
Hard to keep those numbers anywhere near sustainable as a defensive back, but
yeah. Ben says Royals are playing. What are you guys doing? Watching on my phone. We're about to hop off right now because I'm a massive Royals fan. I'm a KC man through and through. So if you know that about me, it's why I love the Chiefs, why I love the Royals. I love KC. Okay? It's who I am. Kansas, my blood is barbecue sauce.
I bleed red. Wait a second.
I bleed barbecue sauce. All right, before we get out of
I hope
here.
that's not true. You should go to a doctor.
Before we get out of here, the defense is elite. We've agreed that the Chiefs can still win, even with the offensive woes. Even if the Chiefs don't go out and get a big-name wide receiver,
it's just harder. Just have less margin for error. It's more work for Kelsey and Mahomes. That's my addendum.
Get ready to buckle in for the severe turbulence of every single game where you land the plane, but you're uncomfortable. Your heart rate goes up, but it's gonna be okay. Final thing for you, running back room. Kareem Hunt, RB1. And is he better than you thought he would be in his return to KC?
Yes. Sterling, yes. I felt like I was an optimist about fresh legs Kareem Hunt for a room that didn't really have a runner quite like him. I still thought that would be a Carson Steele game. Maybe if he didn't put the ball on the ground, maybe it would have been. Maybe that would have been Carson Steele gets almost all those carries. Kareem Hunt comes in for a change of pace, and we say, wow, those 3 6 or 7 yard runs from Kareem looked pretty good. Maybe they get him more involved. But Steele puts the ball on the ground. You have a running back by committee, an earnest one like this, ride with a hot hand. And Kareem Hunt had the hot hand, man. Ronald in the chat, I'll agree with you. He had some juice. Like he was moving fast and violently in a way. Not every running back who is violent is Isaiah Pacheco, but there were a couple of times
on the field.
Yeah, correct. Not every running back that moves that way is automatically Isaiah Pacheco. Their feet are different. Hunt's vision is better. Pacheco has more athleticism right now, all of that. But when you see Hunt function in this offense, it doesn't make me think that they're going to deeply miss Isaiah Pacheco if Kareem Hunt is 90% of what he showed in his first game back. I think it's partially fresh legs. It's partially that he was playing through a hernia for portions of his final games in Cleveland, or that's my understanding, at least based off what Reed said a couple weeks ago. I was surprised that he looked as good and had as much burst as he did, and I'm frankly pretty excited to see where he ends up next. I have the leagues where he was still available in fantasy. I have picked him up. That is my endorsement for that not being a fluke. I think he's the best runner on this roster right now.
Yeah, I said I think after the
The
game,
best healthy runner on this roster.
I said I think the best thing that happened in that Chiefs game was that Steele fumbled.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we would have seen Kareem Hunt, at least specifically this much, if it wasn't for the fumble. I want Carson Steele to get right. I hope he remains on the team. I hope that he figures things out. But he's got to hold that football better. And because of that, we're going to see a huge uptick for Kareem. And I think the biggest thing, we're talking about juice and the physicality. The vision of Kareem, to me, was the most impressive thing. The vision of Kareem Hunt, to me, that's what stood out.
Von Miller just got suspended for 4 games for the personal conduct policy violation. Is it week 4 or is it just me?
What?
Von Miller of the Buffalo Bills is suspended 4 games without pay for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. It was announced today. And rookie defensive tackle Mike Hall Jr. from the Browns has got a 5-game suspension. Is that based off of the domestic violence thing with
I would
Von
assume so
Miller?
with Michael Jr.
He never got suspended for that previously, I guess. Okay.
You know how the NFL operates. They sometimes throw things down in the middle of the season. You don't know when it's going to happen.
Listen, if they feel the need to go ahead and suspend Rashee Rice right now while the iron's hot, I would endorse that decision.
Yeah. Is it the JBTM?
Give him a good 6 to 8 weeks right now. Go ahead and drop the hammer.
Yeah, go ahead. Just throw that thing on them. Throw it on them. All right. What? Did I say something silly?
Nah.
Cuts? Is that on cuts?
Nah.
Okay. All right. So I guess we're all in agreement of we want the Chiefs to bring in a wide receiver, trade for a wide receiver, but probably not going to happen, at least not the wide receiver that we want. So get ready for a heavy dose of Justin Watson and Juju Smith-Schuster.
Bad news, Sterling. The NFL just suspended you for 2 games. I'm not even sure what that's for.
All right, well, during my suspension, I'm going to go watch the Royals kick some Baltimore ass. You have to believe that Baltimore just hates playing any team from Kansas City because they beat up on them.
Hey, Stu, I'll see you at your wedding on Saturday.
See you Saturday. Everyone, appreciate you guys. We'll be back tomorrow with Adam Best. Until then, go Chiefs.